Hi, this is Jo, myself, Jen, and Dawn from Yorkshire in Business, and this is our session about Let's Talk Business. So we had a little put of our heads together and see what we thought people would like to talk about. And we thought we would start with the various grants and funding that have been available to people for their businesses through COVID and how these grants have worked, any hiccups with them and any potential problems we see with the future of them. On that note, Jen.
There you go. Let's talk self-employed income support scheme. I don't know. What do we think? Do we think that this has been good or has it been bad? Should we start with the change, the 1920 tax year? Because I think a lot of people, there was so much call for the 1920 tax year to be included in the grants for those that had started trading in that 1920. But I think as business advisors, what we all know is when you start trading, that first year, you tend to not make a profit anyway, because you've maybe invested a large amount of money into equipment, assets, startup costs. Sometimes you're just about break even, rather than making a profit. Now, I don't know about yourselves, but I've heard a few people have already said, they've changed their figures and not put all of their expenses in. Has that been wise? What's everyone else thinking?
I think adjusting your figures and things is always double-edged. There's good and bad to it, but I do feel that you're not declaring your proper figures to HMRC, bit of a no-no.
I think that's what a lot of people learn from this. What's happened, nobody saw it coming, but for those businesses that don't normally declare everything, it's kind of backfired on them in this scenario. So we've got to be careful that people then don't go the other way and start over declaring in the hope of getting something in the future and then end up paying more tax for something that might not ever happen again.
Yeah.
So I think, like Steve says, they've got to just do it right.
Yeah, and also I think sometimes you can carry forward a loss. So we obviously work on a startup loan scheme. And say, for example, somebody borrows £10,000, you spend that £10,000, you have £10,000 worth of receipts. So those receipts fall in that tax year, but you're repaying that over 5 years. So if you don't declare all those expenses at the start just to get a one-off grant, then you miss out and you're still repaying it, and you can't have them in later years.
No.
I think the other thing that people was really hoping, they were messaging me saying, does this mean I can get the grant now? And actually, some of them only did maybe 6 months self-employment in that first year and were employed. So they're actually ineligible based on the 50-50 rule because they've had more earnings from employment than self-employment, because with the self-employment, it's taking the actual profit, not your turnover. Which has been a bit pointless.
And how many use that grant as well? Because if they're in the first year of trading, like you said before, Jen, you've already mentally prepared yourself for it to be a low year anyway. The businesses that have really needed it are the ones that were in full swing and had good levels of income coming in, and then all of a sudden it stopped. Whereas if they don't really need it, is it worth them, jumping through all the hoops to get something? And then next year they're still going to have to go through the building of the income anyway.
I do hope people haven't submitted anything and made mistakes by doing that.
Yeah.
The other thing to bear in mind, obviously my husband's self-employed, and one thing that I realised is his grant will go down this time if he decides to take that, because it now takes it over the 4 financial years. Now, bear in mind, 1920 was the lowest year for the majority of businesses. So now what that's going to do is bring that average down. So are people going to all of a sudden realise that when they get this 4th grant, I'm not getting as much as what I did before? Why is that? Because the 1 year that my profits were the lowest ever is now taken into account. So really, probably going to be giving out less money than more by including this financial year. And
Sorry.
Sorry.
No. I was just thinking, do you think Where would you stand if you actually took more money last year? Because there are businesses who took more money last year. Morally, they potentially shouldn't be applying for the grant and leaving for the money for people who really need it. But we do know that there are people out there who will apply. So could they potentially finish up with more money?
Well, I think the problem is with that is they shouldn't have been having it in the first place. And I have seen cases where HMRC are already writing out to people saying, you've had this grant in error. Maybe they've worked out they've got employed earnings. You need to repay this. So is this going to happen when people submit their 2021 tax return? Are they then going to think, oh, hold on a minute, you have earned this much, right? You shouldn't have claimed this. You need to pay it back. Very, very possibly.
Yeah, I think that is something people need to be aware of, that there is the potential for HMRC to come back to them and say, you've had money that realistically needs, so we're taking it back.
And I think we know that they're already saying you need to keep records of your loss of earnings if you're going to claim this. So what do we think would be a good record of loss of earnings?
It's harder if you're a newer business. If you're an existing business and you've got 5 years of books and you can show that for those 5 years, every year you took 20 grand, and then suddenly last year you only took 2 grand, then you can definitely show a loss of income. But if you were only 3 months in with a business and then suddenly you couldn't trade at all, how do you show the loss of income?
It's really, really hard. And I feel that we need to be careful if we are taking the self-employed income support scheme grant, that we are truly declaring that we are earning less. I think one of the downsides of the grant, I don't know what you guys think, is it's paid quarterly. So it's over 3 months earnings. But like my husband has lost, I don't know, maybe 25, 30%. Now, but the grant's based on the full 3 months. You can't just say, can I take 30% of the grant to cover the difference? So yes, there's a lot of earnings there. But I mean, I'm just picking figures out the air. I don't actually know until I do the figures what that is. But then what you could end up doing is actually earning quite a bit, because you'll have them grants in your tax return straight away, and your turnover then, or what you've got to pay tax on, is higher. That's the other thing that we haven't even mentioned. You have to pay tax on these grants. So if you're taking 4,000, you need to be putting 1,000 aside straight away for your tax and NI contributions.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that don't realise that as well, Jen, because I know when I've had this conversation with clients that have already spent their grant or used it for things, and then they're asking the questions about the deferral of tax, but it's the same as, you know, with any business. For every time you get money in, you need to set some aside for tax, and it's the same thing, isn't it? And I think that people aren't aware of that. They could quite easily end up in a mess with the tax as well.
Yeah.
Actually, while we're talking about tax, I think it's one of the things that I've been dealing with quite a lot at the moment is this payment on account. That actually people don't understand why all in 1 year they end up getting double the tax bill. Because when you hit a certain threshold and you are self-employed, you pay in your tax almost 2.5 years behind. So then all of a sudden HMRC say, well, let's not get you that far behind. Let's take a year up front so you're only a year behind. And actually, you could be stung with a bill that you haven't put money aside for. And I think we're going to go on to talk about finances anyway, and this is where Dawn can massively advise people. Be aware of what your actual profit margin is and what your take home is, so that you can be ready and start putting that aside instead of being caught off. So really, potentially, if you've got a very profitable business, you need to put double tax away.
Yeah. I mean, that'll only happen almost once, because once you've done it the first time, you're used to it the following years. You've got an idea of how much. It's that first one that can be a real kicker to people, because they've no idea. And if they hadn't been aware of the scheme, that the system's there, then that's where it would really shock them. But I mean, I've always said to people, put a minimum of 30% away. Do you think it's more?
Go on, Dawn.
I think the biggest thing for people is not leaving it too long before they do that, because you can get swept along in your first, my first 6 months of self-employed went by in the blink of an eye, and I thought, gosh, I've not even looked at anything. And I think if they're looking at it regularly, however, depending on what their business is, if they've got a high turnover of lots of different goods and services, then they might need to be looking at it more regularly, but they need to be looking at it at least monthly, and not just leaving it till 6, 12, months down the line, and then realizing they've got a tax bill, because they might not know. How many business owners do we say to them, so how much is your business bringing in? And they say, well, I don't really know, because I haven't done. So if they know on a month by month basis, this is how much has come in, this is how much has gone out, this is what my actual profit is, and that's how much tax I need to pay. And then, like Joe says, be paying a little bit more out, more into the tax pot, having a separate pot of money. In the same way, when you get a wage slip, it's on there, isn't it? This is what you've earned and this is what you've taken in tax, rather than getting a surprise bill. Like Jenn said.
At the end of the year, if you don't need this money to pay your tax and national insurance, then you've got something else that you can reinvest into your business, for a piece of equipment you need, or as a sole trader, that is your money. So you can go on holiday if we're ever allowed to go on holiday. You can do what you want with that money. So it's not necessarily that you're putting that money away just for it to go to government. It might actually come back and support your business.
Definitely.
I do hear it quite a lot, though, and it's probably one of my pet hates, is when people start a business and the first thing they say is, so what do I, what can I put through and how much do I not? And I'm like, you put everything through. And then once if you're making profit, you make the decision whether or not you reinvest that in your business to bring that profit down, or you take that home and pay tax on it. We all pay tax. You're salaried. Everybody pays tax. And like Dawn alluded to, some of those that then have made the wrong decision there, not being honest, haven't benefited from the self-employed income support scheme grant.
It can also shoot them in the foot when they come to apply for things like mortgages or a loan for a new van or whatever else they need to raise finance for. If they don't have decent figures showing on their tax returns, then they're not going to get the finance that they want for something. So honesty is the best policy.
It's a really good point.
Yeah, it's something I've come across on a daily basis. Somebody will come to me and say, right, I've had my business for X amount of years. How much mortgage can I get? And they're declaring usually 12,499,
just under.
And how much mortgage can you get on 12 grand a year? But actually the profit is more than that. So then they've got to wait another 2 years, because you need 2 years. Because lenders, including loans, car finance, whatever it is, they use historic data. So we're always, because we can't predict the future, we're always working backwards. And if you don't already know that, and you're not putting everything through, like Jenn said, if you put everything through, yes, you might have to pay more tax, but the benefits of doing that will be better for you in the long run for everything else that you need to do for your business moving forward.
Oh, we've got some comments.
Oh, lovely. We love a comment.
I know, I love a comment. Let's see what it says. I'll pop it up on screen. Sorry, Dawn, you've disappeared for a second.
Hello, letterbox snacks.
Start a business in Lincolnshire. Enjoying your content so far. Thank you very much. Sometimes wondering about if there is any funding to support me. Quit the 9-to-5 job to start up my own, and have only registered my business at the beginning of this month. Yeah. The problem is, again, it goes to the 50-50 rule. If you've quit a business to go self-employed, anytime probably during 1920 tax year or later, you'll be exempt anyway based on the fact that you've had employed earnings, and the chances are those employed earnings are going to be higher.
Yeah.
So it's really, really difficult. I think my main advice to people at the moment, and we're going to go on to talk about this at the moment, is business trends, is multiple income streams could get you through this time when you are self-employed. You're not tied to one thing. Yes, I think there's an element of do what you do good and well, because that's what you're an expert in. Don't try and be jack of all trades. But there is nothing wrong with earning money where and how you can.
Yeah. If you see a need, meet it and make some money out of it. I'm thinking that letterbox snacks sounds like it's a postal business. So,
send us more information.
Yes, we love a snack. Also, I'm thinking it's something a bit like Graze. So at the moment, there's a lot of health stuff going on. It could be a very future profitable business, and it's a question of being able to hang in there by your fingernails until the profits start coming in.
And as we've all said before, a lot of our business owners sometimes ease themselves in by working as well. They might have a part-time job as well as starting the business. Often, me and Jo use this phrase quite a lot, but it starts off as a side hustle, and then it grows, and then eventually it becomes something bigger. And that's when you make the decision whether you want to go fully into self-employed or whether you want to have your employment, or if, like me, you like to have a mixture of both.
Just one thing on that point, before we go to any other funding out there, I've mentioned it because we are talking about that next, is for those people that have been claiming the grant and now thought, or even like letterbox snacks, I am self-employed and I need to earn some money and there isn't enough coming through for the business, so I'm going to go out there and get a job. That is all good, but there's been quite a few people now that have automatically thought, do you know what, this is working for me, it's taking the pressure off, I don't know if I'm going to go back to self-employment. If you are making that decision and you aren't going to continue trading, that then makes you ineligible for the self-employed income support grants that you took 1, 2 and 3, which could potentially mean HMRC are going to claw that back. My advice under them circumstances would be, yes, continue to work employed because you need to feed your family. But if you can get back to self-employment, even if it's just part-time, even if it is a side hustle, it then at least means that you won't, in the future, be requested to pay that back.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'm smiling at the snacks coming up from Letterbox. I think I like whoever is behind Letterbox.
New friend.
I love that we've reached Lincolnshire. So grants or loans. Should we talk about grants funding for businesses?
Before you go there, can I just do NEA? Can I explain NEA? So before we go into grants and funding, if you are unemployed and you want to start your own business, now this can be 1 day unemployed, but it has to be before you've started doing any actual trading. You can apply to the job centre to be put forward for the new enterprise allowance. You will then get Dawn's puppy barking in your ear. It's good because it's normally my dog barking, but I'm in the office today. You'll get support with writing your business plan, and should then the job centres deem that your business is a viable business, you will then get 6 months of financial support. You get 3 months of approximately £69 a week and a further 3 months of half of that. So that can give you it's not a lot of money, but it can give you a small amount and it is meant to be spent in your business, and it's on top of any other any other benefits that you're entitled to. The other thing to remember is that if you are unemployed and getting benefits, for the first year, you will get further support. You'll report your profit every month and your benefits will be adjusted accordingly. It is more complex than that. But that's the basis of if you are unemployed going into a business.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of startups where somebody's finished work and their goal is, I'm going to start a business, I'm just going to go off and do it, but thought I'd come to you for some help. And actually at that point I've said, don't start just yet. Go to the job centre, be referred for this, because if you're going to do it anyway, you might as well access this support. The other thing to bear in mind is when you are starting a business, we all think it's a great idea and we're going to earn a lot of money, but we always underestimate the cost that you've got to spend, and it's like a bottomless pit. You can keep ploughing money into marketing and more assets, and if you're a crafter, you will spend a lot of money on craft materials. So almost your expenses can outweigh anything that you turn over. Yeah. And so if you do register with the job centre for universal credit, for that first year, you can pretty much live off universal credit and still continue that trading and get the new enterprise allowance top up that Jo was talking about. And I think that's why I say to anyone, just come, ask, and just find out what you can tap into. It's not worth it for everyone. If you've got a partner that's on a good salary, there's no point because you won't top up, but you could still access the new enterprise allowance grant. So if you feel it's worth it, then find that out. But come to somebody like ourselves and we'll talk you through the various options available.
Yeah, and it's like Kelly's just mentioned there that she quit her job. You probably wouldn't be entitled for benefits, but you would have been entitled to new enterprise allowance.
Just one thing, I did clarify this with Job Centre. If you quit a job, you normally can't get unemployment benefits because you've walked out of a job. If you leave a job to start a new career, you are eligible, and that new career can be self-employment. So yes, letterbox Nats, you can go to the Job Centre because it doesn't matter that you've left that job, you are starting your own business.
Jen, keep up. We've moved on from letterbox snacks. The name is Kelly.
Oh, Kelly, sorry.
We've moved on.
Yeah, I'm not very good with names. So, here we go. Danielle. Oh, thanks, Danielle. That's really nice. Really good. Wish she'd have known. This is the problem. So many people say this. Wish I'd have known about you when we started. We still provide, obviously, advice and support later on down the line. And we were going to move on to loans. I hear this quite a lot when people go for a startup loan with job blogs off the internet. I wasted my money and I basically borrowed 10,000, put it in the wrong thing. Wish I'd have known about you then because could have got the right advice at the start.
Yeah.
But we didn't, and Danielle's doing really well. So this doesn't fit Danielle, but I have had these things.
I think we might have a lot of people at the moment as well where they're maybe waiting to see whether they are going back to work or whether they've been made redundant, because obviously businesses unfortunately are making that decision, and they might be thinking, well, I've got an idea for a business but I can't really afford to go self-employed, and they're starting looking for jobs. But actually, if they come and have this conversation and find out what's available to them once they become unemployed, then it could be, for me, I was made redundant when I made the decision to become self-employed, and otherwise I probably never would have took that leap. So sometimes one thing that seems like the worst thing in the world that could happen might end up being the best thing for you if you just get the right advice at the right time.
I totally agree, Dawn, because I moved into self-employment having been dismissed from my last employer on grounds of ill health. Did that and then came and worked here. So yeah, there are a lot of things that can be a negative in your employment life that actually push you in the right direction.
I think if you look at why people go self-employed in the first place, there's a lot of people out there that have always had that idea. We all have these ideas and it's in our head. Some people just either find themselves in the right circumstances where it's now or never, and others never have those circumstances. So is it too daunting, or are they gonna actually take that plunge and try it anyway? And I do feel sorry for those that don't just find themselves in the right situation to go self-employed, because that's the decision made. But if you are in that headspace and you are at risk of redundancy, maybe you are working, you're in a secure job, just speak to somebody about that idea. Definitely. So grants and loans, I think it's one of the main questions that we get asked, isn't it? First thing, is there any free money out there? No. Sorry.
Oh, Jen, sorry, I've just thought before we move on, if you are going to be made redundant and you're toying with the idea of starting your own business, get the advice now, and you could be learning about what you need to do to help you make the decision. Yeah. Right, I'll shut up now.
Valid point. There is nothing to stop you. And always recommend starting a business while you've got secure income. Always. So it was valid. Yeah. So I don't like to burst anyone's bubble, but there is no free money out there, is the Joe. No. Every area is different though. However, there might be very, very small pots out there based on your locality, based on what you're doing. So it's always worth investigating. No one's ever going to hand you £10,000 and say, there you go, start your business. Or everyone would be doing it.
Yeah.
Locally, we're Scarborough based. There's a Scarborough Borough Council startup grant, which Joanne works on. You have to go through an advisor. And finally, Joanne, we have got you approved to work with businesses accessing the startup grant through Scarborough Borough Council. But what is it, about £500, Joe?
For a startup grant, you would have to spend £1,000 to get 500 back. you have to apply for the grant before you spend the money. And there are some very definite criteria that you have to meet. It has to fit in with the council's aims for the future. There are certain types of businesses that they won't cover, and you've got to write a business plan, which is something that a lot of people find daunting, but it is something that, it's another thing that we're here and we help people with. So yeah.
I think what you've got to remember is grants, if there is anything there is strict criteria and hoops to jump through. Yeah. And you need to determine whether or not you're willing to do that. Quite often, people expect us to do that for them. And really, no, you should take ownership. If you want a free £500, you should take ownership and do that. There is a very, very small amount of European funded grants available. They're all matched. So when you see a grant available, you need to check what match funding you need. And what it means by match funding is you will have to spend everything up front and claim a percentage back. The Scarborough Council one's 50%. Some of the European funded ones are as low as 20%. So you will only get 20% of your costs back. So unless you're a business that's probably going to be investing over £250,000 and taking on another, 50 staff, the chances are there is no grants of great value. So then what the government have done to help start-up businesses is the Start-up Loan Scheme, which we work as a delivery partner with Virgin Startup. We've picked Virgin Startup because of their funded club. Their funded club is basically the mentoring that comes after you've had a startup loan to support a business to actually achieve what they set out to do. There's 6 months worth of telephone appointments with special advisors, workshops, webinars, and then after the 6 months, you can actually tap into an actual mentor for your business, which we feel is a really good package of support. Because when you take a startup loan, it's a 6% APR. So, for example, the minimum amount's £500. If you borrowed £500 and the repayment over a year is 26 quid, for £26, you've actually had a pretty good package of support for nothing. Or for £26.
£26, yeah.
Obviously, you can borrow up to £25,000, and the more you borrow on a startup loan, the tighter your application has to be. Because with the Startup Loan Scheme, and I think this is something that we do, and I'm sure Dawn, as a financial advisor, you'll totally back this up, is any lending is high risk when you don't know what that business is going to earn. Nobody knows when you start a business what potential it has. You don't know. You could look at Joe Blogs down the road and think, well, they've done this. But everybody and every business model, every location is different. Some people run a business based on a loyal customer base. So you can't say that you'll do the same as somebody else. So if you're borrowing money and say you went for 25,000 and your business fails, you're stuck with £500 repayments for up to 5 years.
Yeah.
How does somebody then manage that? And what impact does that have on their life, Dawn, if you're juggling all that debt?
I also think that's why Joe's point about the business plan is so important, that you have done all of that, and before you even consider the lending, obviously something we advocate at Yorkshire Business, but actually sitting down and going through the business plan, finding out who your competitors are, what they're making. We do the business essentials sessions, don't we, that helps people to cash this out and really open up these conversations, because you're going into the unknown. You don't know what your business is going to make. You know how many coffees the coffee shop down the road sells because they have this many people going in every day. But like you say, they're their loyal customers. And if you go for any other type of lending anywhere else in the financial world, they are asking you to back up your application based on your income, which would be a mortgage, a personal loan, car finance. And you can't do that as a new business owner, which is why doing those sessions with your business advisor before you get the support package is important, not just for the lender who's going to give you the money, but for you who's going to be the one stuck with the debt at the end of it, because you need to not only make the money to make your loan repayments, before you even start making an income. And it's really important that people can see that on paper and see the numbers before they start.
Yeah.
And I think what we all see as well is somebody comes forward with a business and they want to build Rome in a day, you know. So every business has to be developed. It has to grow. It doesn't just start where you see it now.
No.
And I think one of the first things we have to do with people is break down that business idea and look that someone is picturing to us, to say, right, okay, so how are we going to get there? It doesn't look like that on day one. This is what it looks like. Yeah. And then what that does is reduce the risk on you and the lender, because you're starting smaller. So, for example, you know, you could start off as a rent-a-chair rather than just go and have your own salon. When you've got no customer base, you're actually quite new in the industry, you know, only just trained out of college, say. Nobody under them circumstances is going to set up their own salon.
Yeah. And that's why the business plan is, sorry, Jen, that's why the business plan is a roadmap, isn't it? So you're here now, this is where you want to be, but here's all the towns and villages you've got to go through first. And you break the business down into its most basic form. You know, we see people who do craft businesses and they start out, or baking. I know we're going to talk about the type of businesses that are emerging at the moment, but food and baking, starting in the home kitchen and getting a Facebook following, and then growing that and getting a client base before they make these decisions to invest money that they need to recoup. And it's really interesting when we do these business essentials sessions, because people's business direction from when they come in and they go, Joe, I'm going to do this. And actually it changes. We had somebody on recently who had one idea and he actually ended up with a total different idea that he'd refined, and it was better than what he started with, but he took it in baby steps, like you said, Jen, you know, rent a chair and grow your business.
Yeah. Jen and I had a gentleman who came to us a few years ago with a business idea. If I say to you aeroplanes, Jen, and jukeboxes, this gentleman believed very strongly in multiple strands to his business. And he initially came to us because he wanted to buy things at car boot sales and charity shops and sell them on. By the time he'd been coming to us for a few months, he was buying and selling jukeboxes, and he was wanting to buy and sell jukeboxes. Okay. And then it became, if you wanted to buy a Spitfire or a tank, he could actually do that for you as well. Yeah, unfortunately, he never got a business off the ground at all.
No.
So, no.
And that comes back to redefining your business plan and knowing who your customer is, because he knew he wanted to sell the certain product, but what he wasn't understanding is who was going to buy it. And that's what we do. Sometimes you feel like you're destroying somebody's dreams, but that's not what we're doing. We're trying to put a realistic spin on. And how many times do people say, thank God you said that to me, thank you for having that conversation that made me reel it in a little bit and go, oh yeah, actually we would have really failed if we'd have done what we set out to do, but now we've managed to achieve something better than what we set out with.
One of the first things I will say to a client is, I'll just ask you a question. If someone offered you a job tomorrow on the salary you wanted, what would you do? You're like, oh, I'll go for that. Why are you looking at self-employment then? And I know we talked about, the right circumstances to do this, but you've still got to have a passion for it. Most people start a business knowing that they aren't going to hit this, but actually they're doing something that they love. And I think this is what I enjoy most about what we do, is we see people's passions, and that inspires us, doesn't it? And it fires up inside, and we can see from that excited idea into fruition how amazing it's going to be. But I think one of the things that I definitely do, and especially if they're talking about any borrowing, is make sure that this is the right decision.
Yeah.
And if you can, test trades. Do some testing, test the market, see if people like your food. If you're going to open a cafe, don't just open a cafe because you think, oh, this needs a cafe, or I fancy doing this. You need it to be passion, don't you? We've had people start businesses and actually don't do or have a clue about what they're offering. You've got to love coffee if you're selling coffee. You've got to love knitting if you're going to knit. it's unbelievable how people think, well, I think there's a need for this, so I'm going to try and do that. You know, make sure not only is there a need, but your passion is what's going to get you through the first 3 years.
And can you...
Sorry, Jo.
It's all right.
You go first.
Okay, I was just going to say, especially within crafting businesses, can you do that to a standard that somebody would buy? Because if you love knitting, but your knitting is always full of holes, the chances are that nobody's going to buy it.
Don't buy mine.
No. Well, I'm a crafter and I make all sorts of things. Do I sell any of it? No.
Don't think I would. But she's given us really good freebies.
But I think if anybody comes to us and they're going into a business because they think they're going to make lots of money, then that's when we know that it's not the right thing. Whereas if their goal is to be there more for the children, or to be able to, I don't know, have a different lifestyle, or be passionate about the coffee that they sell, we see that in the people that come to us, because they're all fired up and they've got this idea, and you know that that's all it takes to be successful, is to really believe in what it is that you're going to do, not believe you're going to make lots of money, because the reality is in the first few years you're probably going to be living on beans on toast for quite a while. But if you're passionate about what you believe in, eventually you will turn it into a decent income. We're not going to be millionaires unless you've got something really innovative to share with us. But
and even sometimes
it was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, she's up at 2 a.m. And not only that, you have to be cleaner. You have to be marketer. You have to be the finance person. Then you've got all your home responsibilities to do. You don't stop. Your business almost encompasses every element of your life. Mm. It is your life. That's the thing. You no longer have a job. It's another bit of part of your life. So yeah, definitely. Just answering one of these questions that have come in, Inspiring Women have asked, will EU grants be stopping soon? European money is around until end of August 2023. That's because any money left, that's committed and has to be spent by then. A lot of grants and support programs through the European Union will be more than spent by then. Our funding runs out, is it next September? Which will be 22, won't it?
Yeah.
Might be sooner than that, I don't know. So the grants definitely will probably be spent first. The support will last a little bit longer. And then after that, we're just obviously waiting for what the UK release to replace European funds, which I believe is some prosperity fund. So we'll see if that is similar or better. They say it's going to be better. So hopefully, let's see what
Ellen's just made a good comment as well.
That one.
Yeah. If you're not passionate about what your product is, if you are passionate, people will see it. And people do buy people.
Yeah, definitely.
You can sell a product, but actually if people see your story, and especially with social media, where people are not just getting your business and your product, they get a part of you, then people will pick that up and they'll go on your journey with you and see the changes in your product and your business and become your loyal customers.
Definitely. Shall we move on? I think we've done what we can on that one. What was next on our list, Jojo?
Yep, in our notes. Social media? You want to go social media?
Yeah. Well, we just
is social media the new storefront?
A good opportunity to talk about some of the things that we see happening. And I think one of the things that we always do with a business, especially one that's come out of the woodwork, who's been trading quite a long time, and they were like, we're not quite doing what we used to do, and something's changed. We can't quite pinpoint what it is. And normally it's because the landscape's evolved. And as a business, you need to evolve constantly. If what you did and you are still doing on day one now, then you need to evaluate whether or not that is what people need out of business. So I think one of the things we talked about that we were going to discuss is social media or web, is that a new storefront? It is retail evolving. I know it's a huge conversation at the moment with the decline of the high street, and is the high street dead? But what do we think with regards to, do the businesses that relied on a shopfront Should they be evolving?
Dawn? No, I know Dawn is itching to tell us a story now.
She knows what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to let you say it, Jo.
No. It's your story, Dawn.
Blockbuster again.
Yeah.
Jo and I share this in our Business Essentials session regularly, and I apologise to anybody who's listening who's heard me say this a million times, but it is just so relevant to changing times. But Friday night comes round, Saturday night comes round, and you go off to Blockbuster and you rent a DVD, or in our years it was a video. You get your popcorn, you stand in the queue, you pick up your movie. And then what happened is Love Film came along, which eventually became Netflix, and they took everything that Blockbuster was not doing, and then they did it. So they said, we're not going to charge you a late fee, we're not going to make you come into the store, we're going to do this. And Blockbuster did not react to that. They just carried on ploughing away, which is what some of our retail premises are doing. They're sitting back and waiting to open the shop fronts and wait for the footfall to come back. And that's what Blockbuster did. And now Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore, but you ask any single household in the UK whether they've used Netflix during lockdown. We're all using Netflix. It's one of the number one streaming services in the UK, and that's because they responded to, as Jen said, the change in the landscape, and that people were buying differently. You know, you were busy during the week. You didn't want to go out on a Friday night when it's chucking it down and it's dark outside. You don't want to have to remember to go back on Saturday morning and put it through the letterbox before you get a late charge. We were all happy doing that until somebody gave us an alternative. So we've all been happy going into the high street and buying our goods and services. But now we've been forced into a new alternative. We haven't chosen not to go to the high street. But now, you know, I've just been looking around we've got Mother's Day coming up at the weekend, and I'm looking Facebook, I'm looking at local businesses, I'm looking at people that are selling items that I can buy. Whereas before I might have just popped down to the high street and to the shops. I do want to go back to the high street and the shops. I don't know if you guys feel the same, and I am involved with that. But what we probably do now is we maybe look at our social media and our local businesses before we go to the high street to buy them. I don't know if you're the same, but would you have a look before you go out now, as opposed to just going and browsing? I don't know.
For me, I get people do it the other way around. So you'll go shopping with someone and they'll try something on. They'll be like, right, I'm going to go search the internet, see if I can get it cheaper. I hate that. You know, if you're going to go to the high street, you might pay a slight bit more, but look at what you're benefiting. You benefited from trying that product on, touching it, feeling it, having that personal customer service. We've probably all seen that video that goes on around on Facebook about if checking out on a website was real and they're in the coffee shop. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch it, because it's like, oh, before we can give you your coffee, you need to sign up to our newsletter. And actually just walks out without the coffee in the end. So yes, there's a benefit to the high street. Yes, you should pay a little bit more than if you're buying it online. But again, if you're a retailer and you're frustrated, why is everyone going online? Then you need to look at your customer service. You need to look at the customer experience then, because I will pay more for an experience.
Yeah,
I think.
Sorry, go on, Jo.
I think there's a lot of businesses who are so busy running their businesses and doing what they do as a business that they forget to go and look at the other side. I used to work on a deli. Go and stand around the other side and see what the customer sees.
Definitely.
Look at what they're seeing, because if it doesn't look nice or it doesn't feel right or whatever, they're not going to buy it.
And I think we need to be engaging them online as another way of getting them into our businesses, because I think the way that we as people shop has changed. You know, we are now trying to use our small, I don't know if it's just me because of the work that we do, and because of the work that I'm doing in Bridlington, because there's a lot of new shops opening. But I think that the way that we value our money has changed, and we want to spend it with small local businesses because we've seen the struggle that they've gone through. You know, we are going back to the butchers, the bakers on the high street, but we do also look, you know, if I want to go and get my meat for the week, I might order it on Facebook and go and pick it up, because of time's not on our side. We've had the kids at home, we've had jobs to do, and we haven't had the time to do that. So I think that, like you've said there, Jo, they do need to be engaging with the customers on social media, even if they're not selling on social media, to keep the brand awareness and the interest in what they're doing.
And I think one thing that I want to bring up now is collaboration. I think collaboration is key in business now. So we talked about Netflix. Has anyone noticed the recent collaboration with Sky and Netflix?
Yeah.
Now, Sky could potentially have been Blockbuster in this scenario, but what have they done? They've thought, right, let's collaborate. Let's join forces. And what that'll do is make them both stronger. But I mean, Sky evolved, I don't know, however many years ago when they brought in the internet.
Yeah.
They're constantly evolving, and now they've looked and thought, we can't really beat Netflix, let's join them.
Yeah.
And I think collaboration, I mean, we see this all the time with our networking, and this is why networking is key for a business. A lot of people do not see the benefit to going to a networking, and networking isn't for everybody, but there are different levels and different types of networking. But that's how you get to know other business owners. And actually, once you get to know the business owners, you become stronger because you build that support network around you. And automatically, like the Etsy sellers in Scarborough, all created a group, and now they're doing loads of fairs together. They're promoting each other. They're collaborating on Mother's Day's gifts and stuff, and it's fantastic.
And we've seen this with the tourist industry in Bridlington. The BTA has been bringing together they're all in the same trade, but they're actually sharing and working together because they are competing, but you need some healthy competition to keep you up in your game, to keep you going. If you've just got a steady plodding on of your business for years and years, but actually if you've got to keep your eye on your competitors a little bit, it does make you up your game a little bit, doesn't it? And keep everything to a higher standard. Definitely.
And the personal experience of shopping on the high street, and I mean there are some brilliant collaborations. There are things as well, like Jen's saying, Sky and Netflix, but also there are things like we have a shop in Scarborough, Lily's Treasures, and Lily's business has grown from strength to strength. Her name's not actually Lily, but one of the things that she's done is when she's taken on larger premises, she's brought in other businesses and rented them space that they can then sell their goods from in a physical shop without them having to take on all the overheads. It helps her with her overheads, but it also allows a very small producer to be able to sell their goods.
What do we call that, Jo? Passive income.
Passive income. Yes, we love a passive income. Sorry, I really missed that one.
She's like, oh no, not the passive income. But it's a great point. It's a great point because if you can find another income into your business as well as a collaboration with another business, it's a win-win for everybody, isn't it?
Yes.
I think one of the other things that I see quite a lot is when you are talking about physical premises, a lot of the times you look for a gap and you think, well, okay, so there's a bakery there, and there, but not over there. And rather than thinking, is that why there's a bakery there, not there, you think there might be a reason. So actually, one of the best things I heard from a business advisor, Iris Woodhead, loved her, best advice I ever heard her give a baker is put yourself next to Couplands because your customers are already there. Now, I don't know if anybody here has been up to Ramsell and seen Dahlia's Bakery, right up the road from Couplands. Amazing little bakery, always a little queue outside. I have no doubt as soon as they open there that they would succeed. And Couplands still has a queue. There's enough customers for everybody, but location is also key.
Yes.
I know they've not collaborated with Couplands, but they've definitely benefited. And I think definitely think about your location. Oh, Caroline's just mentioned Picnics opens on Ramsell too. Now, yes, that might provide a little bit of competition. Hopefully, there will be enough customer demand for all three up there. Personally, I would drive up to Couplands, pick up my dinner and come back to work. I have to drive from here anyway.
Mm-hmm. You wouldn't go to Couplands.
You are very rare. I know. I am.
Yes.
The other thing I think we were going to mention is obviously we're talking about the high street and now utilising the internet for benefiting your business and marketing your business. What about other marketing opportunities? I think, was it yesterday morning or this morning we had a blogging for business? Yesterday morning.
Yeah.
What do we think? I mean, do some people just stand back and think, yeah, customers will come to me? Is that one of the problems businesses face? Are they not proactive enough in their marketing?
Very much.
If you're service-based, you don't see that because you don't have a product. My business doesn't have a product, it's a service, and there's other people that have service-based businesses, and that's where the blogging can really come in, because there's a really successful blog called In Her Financial Shoes, which is a lady called Catherine Morgan, and she does financial education through podcasts and blogs. And it's great because you're talking about your service, but you're also giving something to your clients at the same time. So it's a different form of marketing than your lovely pictures and your displays and all those things that you might traditionally see on Facebook or Instagram or any of the other ones. And it's making sure that you choose the right platform for your business as well, isn't it? Which is something we talk to people about all the time. Financial services business. Do you really want to buy financial services through Facebook? Not really. Do you want to buy a legal service through Facebook or a property? No, but you want an awareness of that business from there, and then you would go and buy that service through a different platform. So it's choosing where you put that information so that you get into the right people as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for certain services, people might look on Facebook at reviews and see what information's there. But you're right, I don't think they would try and engage with you through that. And yeah, you need to find the right platform for you. If you're trying to engage business to business, then you want LinkedIn, not Facebook or not Instagram. And it's also about what do you class as social media to engage on? What about YouTube? What about TikTok? What about then do we have keeping up with all of these? And in certain people, there is a move away from social media. So how are you going to connect with somebody who doesn't engage in social media?
And you know what? When I first started doing this sort of 16 years ago, back then the paper was such a, it was the main tool that businesses used to advertise. But do you know what? It was successful because there wasn't social media. That's where people went to find the businesses that they needed. Now you've got social media, you put an advert in the paper and it does not produce results at all. But neither does social media all the time. And I think actually, although we have more opportunities to promote our businesses, it can almost become harder to convert sales because of it.
Yeah. And you've got the negative that comes with that as well, haven't you? There's the negative side when there's something somebody's not happy about, that's when they will be quicker to go public with it than if they are happy with it. So you've got to really manage your social media. If you're gonna do a business page, you want it separate to your personal, and you've got to really be on the ball with it and be prepared to take both sides.
Yeah, and I think with the negative comments as well, you've got to be prepared to deal with them. Don't just think that'll go away. Sometimes we all make mistakes and things go wrong. Can anybody say that they haven't had a problem with something they've bought somewhere at some point in their life? And it's more about how that business then dealt with that than what actually went wrong. If they dealt with it really well, you would think, oh, well, these things happen and deal with them again. But if they just ignore it, you're going to think they don't care.
But as a business, have you asked your customers to post good reviews? How many times do they say, if you enjoyed your product, if you liked my service, post a good review? Nobody, I can't tell you the last time someone said that to me. No. But when I feel like I'm disappointed, I've spent this much money, I'm not really happy with this. Yes, it's what you want to tell other people. It's natural. So for every one bad review, you've got to think there's hundreds, maybe thousands of amazing reviews. But as a business, we can learn from that and think, let's ask people. All you've got to say is, please leave us a review. And I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Especially if you're completely happy with the service, you've gone away, say you've got your blinds fitted and they're absolutely perfect. You don't think anything of it. So write a review.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the expectation we have as well in today's world, isn't it? We do expect everything to be done. And like Jo says, we're only human and we make mistakes. And if you do get something negative, and if anybody's experienced this, it's really important that you respond professionally and positively as well. You might not agree with the customer, but remember that old saying that the customer's always right. They're not always right, but the way you respond to it will reflect back on you. So you may have to say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. So you're not necessarily apologising for what's happened, but I'm sorry that you feel that way. This is what we're going to do to put it right. And I have seen business owners, particularly where, if they maybe work from home and things like that, where they might have fired back at them and said something negative, and then it becomes, everybody's sitting there going, "Ooh, you want to read the comments, don't you? There's a bit of a fight going on here in these comments."
Yeah.
We all thrive off this, don't we? But the reality is that the minute you do that, you've straight away downgraded your business, haven't you? Unintentionally, because you were mad.
And it can be a stab to the heart. You put your heart and soul into your business, and some bad reviews just aren't warranted. Somebody just wants a freebie. And given, I think most of us now know that some bad reviews just want freebies. But yes, it doesn't stop us taking it personally. And you're allowed to take it personally. And actually, if you watch Tina's video from yesterday,
oh,
yeah, it was awesome. Do you know what? You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. No.
I've actually recommended today to clients that they go back and watch Tina's video, but it was on. I was awing at Letterbox Snacks. They're lovely.
Oh, look, yeah. Thank you, Letterbox Snacks. We'd love to have one, and we'll definitely give you a review. But do you know what? I'm not a lover personally of giving a discount, because if you set your price low, you're underselling yourself. If you know that you are worth something and your product's worth something, be proud of it, definitely.
Yes.
And I think this is one thing that we have quite a lot. And a lot of people think, well, everybody else is charging this amount and I'll just go under that, or I'll charge the same. Sometimes the most successful businesses are the ones that stand out as different because they're actually charging an increase. There's always somebody willing to pay an inflated price, but it's got to be justified, hasn't it? So what are you getting for that? So the other thing, we could talk about business forever and our time is nearly up, but decide where you stand in your market, your low end, middle, top end, and be there and stay there. So really do your research on your competitors. Decide who your then most direct competitors are, and position yourself in the market where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. I had somebody say to me yesterday that she felt we were talking about her pricing because we're looking at doing an increase, and she said, "Oh, I feel guilty taking money off people." And I was like, "Right, we need to address this money guilt thing, because you're not going to succeed in business if you don't take their money." And we had a whole conversation about looking at it differently, look at what they're getting for the money they're paying and everything. But yeah, if you're going to feel guilty about taking people's money, you might need to go and have a little chat with yourself about that. It's got to be an exchange of money for your service.
Definitely.
I once had one really, she was amazing. I found her really inspiring. And she set up a business and she made memory quilts. And I looked at memory quilts elsewhere and people were selling them for little bits, really. I was looking, thinking, how are they making money on that? And she was like, well, I'm selling mine for £250. How are you doing that? She says, I hate making them. I've got someone who makes them. So because she wasn't emotionally involved in them products, she was like £250. She said, and they sold. So sometimes you've just got to think, my product's worth that much and I'm going to sell it for that much.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I thought she was fantastic.
And how often is it that the ones that don't want to pay the money, the ones that want everything for £5, they are always the ones that are going to complain. So sometimes it's about saying no to those. Those are not your type of customers. They're the ones that need to just, maybe go and look for the product in Poundland. The ones that want to pay good money for a good product are the ones that are less likely to complain because they've already made that commitment to spending that money before they spend it.
Absolutely spot on, Dawn. And I think on that note, it's a good closing. So thank you everyone for joining us. Maybe we should do a Yorkshire Business Part 2. We can talk about businesses like forever, couldn't we?
Oh, we could.
But if anybody wants to have a contact with any one of us, contact Jo.
Message me. It's fine. Yeah, contact me. Email me.
What's your email, Jo?
Joanne@yib.org.uk.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.